Anna, thank you so much for joining us on Hurt to Healing. And we're going to dive into some short form questions. What is self-sabotage and why do we do it even when we know we shouldn't?
Okay, so I think self-sabotage is ultimately making decisions or engaging behaviors that are not helping our growth, that are not nurturing. Why do we do it? I think a few reasons. Maybe we actually feel like that's what we deserve. Maybe we feel guilt or shame. So actually being a bit mean to ourselves and not really looking after ourselves, it kind of feels like we're righting a wrong somehow. It's like quite punishing. I think it, when we have low confidence or self-esteem, that actual belief that we are deserving of the good things on the other side of making better decisions, that can be quite hard. And maybe just that internal critic is really loud and we haven't yet been able to internalize or develop a more kind of compassionate voice to sit beside it and argue its point sometime. So I think that all those things can kind of perpetuate some of that self-sabotaging behavior.
And do you think everyone self-sabotages?
I think so. Yeah, I think we all have parts of ourselves that don't like other parts of ourselves. We can believe that we're deserving of good things, but maybe there's another part of ourselves that feels like a bit of a failure in certain parts of life. And it's just this constant interplay between the fact that we're always growing and changing and feeling challenged and like and love and accept and reject different bits of who we are.
What do you think are the most common ways that people self-sabotage without necessarily even realising that they're self-sabotaging?
So I think it can be like not drinking enough water. I think what we don't realise is that when we're dehydrated, our body's in distress. So we want to be calm, we want to function like highly, but actually if we're not even hydrating ourselves, and sometimes that can feel we can feel the rebellion in us, right? We might feel that thirst come out and we're like, no. We feel that we recognise that we're overlooking a need and it feels more important to write an email than it does to go and get some water. So I think, sometimes it's just even the simple, basic need meeting, things that we're doing.
Another guest on the podcast says something very funny, and the number of women who often needed to wee and basically needed to go to the loo, and they would sit there until the very end of the day where you're literally about to pee your pants, and you're like, why on earth did I get to that stage? But we all do it, right? It's like leaving it to the last minute, like rushing to the loo. It's like, why did I not just go to the loo when the signal was there? And it's funny, isn't it?
It's funny how we do these things.
And with food, I think regardless of whether you have an eating disorder or not, a lot of people self-sabotage with food. You know you shouldn't eat the packet of chocolate biscuits, but it's sitting there and you have one and you're like, I've had one, so well, I might as well have two. And then before you know it, the packet of biscuits is still gone. And equally, it's if it can go the other way, it's like, oh well, I'm going to live off lettuce, and then you still almost self-sabotage in the other direction. So it's interesting. And with drinking.
Definitely.
It's
the relationship that we have with ourselves, really, that little needy, vulnerable part of ourselves that needs and wants and has feelings and is kind of maybe messier and less, a bit chaotic. And I think it's a relationship that we have with that part. Do we think that's something that needs to be shut down and suppressed and told what to do and told where to go and criticized? Or do we see that actually just a part of who we are that is always going to be there, and it's the relationship that we have with that bit, and the more we tend to it and hear it and coach it, actually the less likely it's going to be in acting out in these ways where we sabotage.
Because I think sometimes people who are really uncomfortable with things going well, they will then actively just self-sabotage because of discomfort in things being okay, whether it's a relationship or their day's going well. They'll do something to self-sabotage because that state feels more comfortable than being so peaceful and okay.
And we can begin to find comfort and safety in other states, and that's the best thing, is that we can get there.
I know, and I loved what you said earlier about just feeling safe in yourself and in that restful state. And so many of us are always running away from that because we feel undeserving of rest and we feel undeserving of just being slow.
And coaching yourself, if you think, right, I'm going to rest now and I'm going to put everything aside and I'm going to do something that I know nourishes me. And you could have an absolute tug of war in your head that makes you end up thinking, well, I don't even know what the point was because I spent so long trying to force myself to stay sat down or restful or out on that walk that it wasn't actually enjoyable. But keep working with it and keep you know, it's unfamiliar. That little part of you that doesn't believe you're deserving of it is just, you know, it feels unsafe when we, you know, because it's unfamiliar, and in time we can develop a different relationship with meeting the needs.
How can we start to spot the early signs of self-sabotage before it begins to take over?
I think just notice those moments where you're warring with yourself. Notice those moments, you know, where you're thinking, you're just noticing that I really want to do that, but then, oh no, I don't want to do that. But I really, I just want to, it's like, no, I don't want to do that. It's not, I've said I'm not going to do this anymore. And it's just starting to notice when that dialogue is picking up and you're, you know, you're kind of, it just feels really dissonant. What you want and what you need are two different things, and they're just kind of like fighting. And it's, I think that's the best way to start picking up on where it's at play.
Yeah, and for me, I think pressing fast forward and being like, if I do this now, how's it going to make me feel in an hour? How's it going to make me feel tomorrow? And actually, do I want to sit with feeling like I was the best version of myself and I showed up for myself today? Or am I just going to press that button and just go, actually, no, self-sabotage all the way?
Yeah. And it's all data. So if we do, you know, sometimes I will literally think I will do that and I'll still do it anyway, you know, because I'm like, sorry, I don't care about me tomorrow. I don't care like right now. I'm just in this moment and this urge feels too big, or, you know, the emotion feels like something I'm desperate to numb and get some respite from. And I think it's just using those as data points, you know, learning from those, and also having grace for the growth, you know, grace for the times when we do just press that button. But that's why the whole book is like, it's all about, you know, more of the time, not all of the time. Because I think the more black and white we are about it, then the more shame will come in, and, you know, the less likely we're going to punish ourselves again, and it just creates a downward spiral.
Totally. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. You speak a lot about gut instinct. How can we learn to tap into our gut instinct and trust it more?
So I think, again, it's turning inwards, and I think we outsource decision making all the time, you know, and it often comes down to confidence. What if it goes wrong? I'll be the one to blame. But therefore, if someone else has told me to do it, then at least I can put that elsewhere, because maybe the cost of blaming yourself is too high. It means self-sabotaging even more or spiraling down. So I think when you start outsourcing decisions and you want to ask 10 people and they all say different things, so then you go online and then you go to like all of these different platforms and you're reading forums and articles, and, you know, actually just asking yourself, you know, what if no one knew, what would I do? Like, if nobody knew, if I could cut out the people pleasing and all the other opinion and just tune into what felt like the right thing to do, what would that be? And I think that can be really helpful.
Yeah.
Just asking yourself, what would I do if no one knew? And again, it's about growing in confidence in making those decisions, and knowing that a wrong decision, you know, we can reroute. We can sometimes backtrack. Sometimes we just have to learn from it and we do differently next time. And that's all part of it. It doesn't mean, like, we can't mitigate that. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll feel anxious and making decisions. And yeah, it just creates another issue.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Why is radical self-compassion essential in breaking the cycle of shame and poor decision making?
Because we all deserve it. And I think sometimes there's a fear in being compassionate towards ourselves, as if I'm kind to myself and I'm just compassionate towards myself, then I'll never be accountable for anything. I won't take full responsibility for my actions, because I'm like, oh wow, you know, I did my best, these things are going to happen. And, you know, maybe we think I won't be driven, or I won't try and do something, you know, I won't try and do well, because actually I'll just recognize I'm human, and I, you know, and it's almost as if we're going to take our foot completely off the gas. But I think a metaphor that I like is, imagine you've got two classrooms together, and this was actually the reality at my school in year, I think it was year 3. One teacher was so terrifying. You know, we literally were so scared that we did everything to the utmost, like, because we were just so scared of being told off. And we got great grades. Right next door, there was this other teacher. She was gentle and warm, and, you know, she was firm, but she was lovely. And they also got good grades. And I think sometimes we think the only way to do well is basically to metaphorically kind of like hold a whip over ourselves and ready to beat ourselves up. But actually we can do brilliantly without having to live in fear of ourselves and others.
And actually that's something that Wrong in Strategy talks a lot about in his recent book, is like, all the answers are actually within ourselves. Like we outsource, and going back to your point about outsourcing, we ask for advice from all these professionals. We go to doctors thinking they're going to hand us this magic bullet that's going to cure us.
Yeah.
We ask friends for their advice, but ultimately, like, all the answers are within ourselves. And that's sometimes, yeah, like a slightly startling prospect, but actually it's quite reassuring in a way, because if you manage to slowly tap into that, you realize that that's where true healing begins.
Yeah, and also that if you fail, or if it goes awry, or if it goes wrong, or if it gets messy, you in and of yourself are not a failure. Like, we're just finding our way through. And I think sometimes the fear of being a failure rather than just failing at something, because we're just doing our best and we don't always know what's going to happen, and we don't always have all the information, but we're just doing our best. And I think, yeah, when we stop shaming ourselves and calling ourselves a failure for failing, then actually, you know, the cost of getting it wrong isn't so high, because we're not going to be beating ourselves up.
Yeah. Can you guide listeners through a short framework or reflection to help them move from stuckness to clarity?
Oh, let me have a little think. What I would say is just take a deep breath, because I think sometimes we're in that freeze stuck state. You know, we're so tight and like hyper vigilant, and we're literally just braced for something to go wrong, or to make a wrong move. So I think, you know, literally just kind of telling your body that you're safe. And that's the best thing about kind of taking those deep breaths and extending the exhale, is that you are saying to your nervous system, you know, saying to your body that you are safe. You're not at threat here. It might feel threatening, but you are safe. And I think getting your body into that kind of safer space of like dropping your shoulders and loosening your jaw, and trying to say to that little vulnerable part of you that's just kind of so on edge that it's okay, whatever I said, we can do this. We're not alone. Like, there are people that we can invite on this journey with us. And then just thinking, you know, what is it that the need is? Not necessarily the want, but what is the need underneath? What is that vulnerable part of you trying to say here? Is it you feeling lost, or you're feeling lonely, or you're feeling misunderstood, or you're feeling overwhelmed? And just starting to tune into some of the layers of need and feeling that sit under just the noise of it all, and that feeling of failure and that feeling of stuckness. And I'd say, you know, whatever comes up in that, sometimes it might be, you know, I just feel really lonely. I feel really unsupported. So what is one little thing that I can do off the back of that? What is one little thing, and how can I make it so small that it feels feasible? So it might be messaging a friend. You know that actually going around to their house and sitting and being honest and open is the ideal, but actually you're going to take the smallest step, and that's just going to message a friend and just start a little conversation in a way that feels doable for you. So tell your body that you're safe, listen to the need, and then think, what is the tiniest step that I can make that feels doable right now?
Anna, thank you so much.
Oh,
It's been a joy to have you and to talk to you.
Thank you. I've loved it. Thank you.